see this kind of standing wave of order taking place, and that creates those beautiful geometric patterns. And that's the code that the brain is actually tuning into.
Hello, and welcome to the Pacific Channel, where you learn about the law of attraction, how to manifest anything you want, meditation, and more. In this video, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about quantum physics, but don't let that turn you off to the message. The whole point of this discussion is to open your eyes to the possibility that, theoretically, there are many different realities that we can create. You have the power within you to create any reality that you want when you have enough belief and focus on what you want. Dispenza discusses what goes on in the brain and heart and autonomic nervous system and more when a person taps into these higher brainwave states like gamma, where theoretically you have access to an infinite number of realities. This is a rather mind-blowing clip, but most of Dispenza's content is mind-blowing if we're honest about it. Without any further delay, let's listen to Dr. Dispenza.
But let's start at a place where we can build a model so that everybody is included in this understanding. Because in the quantum, there are infinite universes like this universe, just like this universe, that exist, that are seamlessly connected to one another. And they're constantly changing, constantly expanding, and constantly growing. That is the many worlds theory in quantum physics, infinite realities that exist all at once. So we are in this three-dimensional reality, and one of the things about the three-dimensional reality is that we're unaware that everything is immersed in this invisible field of energy, this void. Everything in space is made of this vacuum. By the same means, the atom's 99.999% of that empty space is really what you're made out of. So you're oscillating and vibrating at a certain frequency, and that slow frequency that we're perceiving you as is the very slowest form of energy, which is matter. So when we're in brain and heart coherence, one of the things that takes place kind of from a scientific standpoint is we're in a non-sleep, heightened rest state. And so that we call relaxed in the heart and awake in the brain. Now, that's something that we discovered in this process. So of all the measurements that we've done. So when the heart is incoherent because you're stressed and you're in traffic, or you have appointments, or you're late, or you're trying to take care of your kids and trying to answer the phone, or whatever it is that causes us to move out of homeostasis, the heart is irregular. It's pumping really hard in survival, and it causes a lot of pressure against the closed system, and that causes the heart to beat out of order. The energy that's created in the heart when that occurs actually interferes with each other deconstructively. Energy is lost as those waves, those turbulent waves, interfere. As they interact, the energy drops, the lines get flatter. And so energy leaves the heart, and that's when we stop being creative, because that is the creative center. It's just not a time to create. Most of the energy then is moved into the lower energy centers, because we have to adapt to whatever it is that we're perceiving as threatening and dangerous, and we have to do something in order to change it. So we discovered that when people were able to sustain heart coherence, that in a sense they would finally get beyond all of those stress hormones and keep disconnecting from everything physical and material in their three-dimensional world, and broaden their focus and put it on that 99.99% that is energy, that is frequency, that we are immersed in. That if people are able to relax into their heart and begin to change it from that state of stress and survival, and work with the body so that it could be present, and stop trying to anticipate the next moment or revisit a past moment and the emotions that are associated and the story that goes with that and the memories that are connected to it, At the same time, we're always trying to predict what's going to happen next because it's safe when we know what's going to happen next. That's the known. That when people finally get out of that range, and it takes a few days, we see this in most of our week-long events, people start realizing when they're in the present moment and they're in the unknown, nothing really dangerous actually occurs, and they're able to relax a little bit more in that state, and it's relaxing into that state that causes energy begin to move into the heart. And if you're no longer thinking the same thoughts that are producing the same chemicals that feed those lower centers, you're inhibiting that conditioning process, that thought and feeling. Energy all of a sudden has to move somewhere as well. And once again, it moves into the heart. When we feel safe enough to create and we're relaxed in the heart starts to gain energy, and it starts to actually beat in rhythm and beat in order. When we were in Indian Wells before the pandemic, we hooked up an electrode to the quantitative EEGs, the EEG measurements we were doing. We hooked up an electrode for the heart and looked at the heart rhythm along with the brainwave patterns. And we saw that when the person moved into a beautiful state of heart coherence, the stroke volume of that heart in its rhythm would cause the brain right afterwards to go into beautiful, coherent alpha patterns. There was a wave of information that was coming from the heart, and the heart was informing the brain that it was safe to create. Alpha is that creative and imaginary state. So what we discovered is that the more the person was able to sustain this state, we started noticing that there was a resonance taking place in the autonomic nervous system. That as they were able to slow down their brain waves and move beyond their analytical mind, we saw that the autonomic nervous system started getting really hot, getting really warm, and they were really shutting out the mechanism, shutting it off, the mechanism that connected them to everything known in their three-dimensional world. That the autonomic nervous system, the limbic brain, started increasing in energy. And the brainwave patterns were kind of in that non-sleep, total rest state where they're in theta. And so we started to notice that when that occurred, if they were in that imaginary state and they no longer were thinking, and the voice in their head, the default, the critic that's always talking, has stopped talking, and they're not thinking about certain people and things they have to do or places they have to go at certain times, they've shut down the neocortex. Something wonderful started to happen. We started to see that in that theta state, theta started carrying other waves, and for some people, they were so relaxed that they were in a light sleep, and at the same time they were conscious and awake. Their autonomic nervous system started regulating in harmonics, in order. And some people were so relaxed that they were in almost like a delta state. Their brainwaves looked like that they were in a deep sleep, and yet they were conscious and awake at the same time. So that range of theta, when they got way outside of normal theta, allowed the autonomic nervous system to get tuned to frequency and to energy. And that pineal gland that sits right in the limbic brain is really the tip of the antenna with its crystals that begins to really transduce information that the autonomic nervous system is getting tuned into. So we started seeing these beautiful levels of order taking place in the nervous system. And for certain people, they were coherent in delta, they were coherent in theta, they were coherent in alpha, they were coherent in beta, they were coherent in high beta. And this kind of pattern started happening where they ultimately, that high beta would just move into gamma. Now, gamma is a faster frequency than high beta, and high beta is that aroused state where we are feeling stressed and we are living in survival. And the arousal causes us to pay attention to the outer world because that's where the danger is. But the arousal is an awakening. But the arousal is stimulated by the environment, and it comes in the flavor of fear or anxiety, pain or suffering, or aggression, anger, hostility, hatred, whatever that is. That's the arousal that causes us to become more attentive. But this arousal isn't knocking the autonomic nervous system out of order. The arousal is actually creating more order, and those standing waves of energy that are building on one another cause the brain to go into a super conscious or super attentive or super aware state. And when that occurs, we started seeing the recruitment of large networks of neurons starting to fire in the brain in high degree of order. And when neurons fire, the activation of that activity is creating a level of mind. Now the person is now more conscious or more super conscious of everything. And the arousal that's being sent to the brain with such degree of rhythm and such degree of cadence and such degree of order, gamma is super consciousness. What comes with that for many people is the information that they're suggestible to in that hypnotic state without any of their senses. That's where we normally get information. They're gathering information from the field, and the more coherent their autonomic nervous system is, and the brain and heart are the anchors, the more coherent the information that's being read on that frequency. So there's a kind of a harmonic that's taking place, an entrainment between the autonomic nervous system and the field. What comes with that information is a heightened experience where the person has a transcendental moment that is no longer associated with anything that is known to us. That information is informing the brain and the nervous system of something, that there's another reality, there's another possibility, there's more to this reality than you have been perceiving. And the upgrade that's coming to the nervous system is not coming from anything in three-dimensional reality. That's not coming from the particle. It's not coming from that separate world. It's coming from that field of unity, that the void is the absolute. It is pure consciousness in its non-vibratory state. It's the ultimate frequency. So the more the person's able to sustain it, and the more networks of neurons begin to fire in unison, you start to see this kind of standing wave of order taking place, and that creates those beautiful geometric patterns. And that's the code that the brain is actually tuning into. Theoretically, if you get really good at this, where you can do that at will, you can experience other realities that exist beyond this reality. Now, for me personally, what the important point of this is, because this is all theoretical, but I was just looking in my hotel room here. I was walking out the door this morning, and I saw there were two mirrors on both sides of the door. And I kind of looked over that way, and I looked over that way, and I think that's exactly how the quantum is. There's an infinite number of realities that you exist in simultaneously. You're only aware of this one, because that's where.
You've probably heard it a million times that everything is energy. And it is remarkable what we can do in a state of meditation when we get our brain, heart, and autonomic nervous system to work in unison, to work together, to be coherent. If you can meditate and get yourself into the gamma brainwave state, it appears that anything is possible. You can heal anything, manifest anything, be anything, and improve every aspect of your life. So much of all of this is simply about getting out of your own way, letting go of resistant thoughts of worry, stress, and fear. This is why meditation is such a powerful tool. It is the gateway to new realities. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to watch more videos like this. And if you feel so inclined, please leave a comment below. And now, go out there and create your own reality. You can do it. Thank you for watching.